happens when you outgrow your original customer is the topic of today. And this one's going to be super important because when we started our business, I was selling suits for $400 and then $500. And then every year we had to make a decision, was it time to increase our price knowing that we would lose clients? So whether you're in a specific industry from a retail standpoint or a service standpoint, I think this episode is going to really hit home to a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners. So Stan, what happens when you outgrow your original customer? How important is something like this when it comes to scaling a business, growing a business, but also understanding that not every single client is going to be with you forever, and not every single client is meant to be with you forever? That's kind of the essence of the conversation today.
It's a tough one to think about and have to deal with as a business owner. You got people that come with you early on, kind of putting their faith in you, giving you a chance to make things work. But the reality is you can't keep your prices the same. That's usually a reason why you end up losing customers, but also the type of person you want to work with, maybe the location you're working in or the product and services you offer just evolve over time to where those original clients just don't make sense anymore.
Stan's actually in the process of hiking his price up now to see what the threshold to get rid of me actually is. But I mean, you're going through it now too. It's the same situation, right? Every business owner has to face that.
Yeah, I encourage my clients at least once a year, you need to review your pricing. Things change. We've got rapid inflation over the last 5-6 years where you've got health insurance, employee wages, your rents, if you're selling products, the cost of those products. We've got tariffs potentially now. You've got shipping costs going up with fuel prices. There's almost no world where you can make money at your original price if you're selling a product over a long period of time.
And that doesn't mean you have to hike up your price double, triple, substantially. It could be 10%, it could be 2%, it could be 1%, it could be whatever the number is, has to correspond with other actions taking place against you as a business owner.
That's why it's important to do it at least once a year, so you don't have to have that giant, massive price hike. You can look at it and go, all right, our costs went up 1-2%. Let's raise our prices accordingly. We can let our customers know and go from there. But it's just going to happen. It stinks because we're relationship-based businesses. That's how we like to do things. Sometimes you have to have those tough conversations where it's just, hey, what you need? Because sometimes it's customer need too versus what. If someone comes in and buys an entry-level suit the first time and they're willing to pay that price, but then a year or two later they come in and they need a tuxedo or something with nicer fabric for whatever particular reason, and that price point's a different price point, they might not be as happy with that because they want more, but they don't want to pay more price. So sometimes the expectation from the customer or client standpoint, we face that a lot in the accounting industry where you have people come in and they want you to do all this stuff, but they only want to pay just to have the tax return done. But if you want meetings throughout the year, you want more help, you want advice, you want a partner in your business, that's a different price point than just going somewhere and having someone do your tax returns once a year. So just the reality, trying to communicate that to your customer can be hard. And that's where I would ask you, like, what is your method, or what's the best way you find to communicate those types of conversations with clients?
So when we started the business, I didn't increase pricing much for the first 2 years or so. And my thought process behind that was, I'm just trying to sell product. I'm just trying to get my product on as many bodies as I possibly can within a certain time frame. So what was for me was I don't need to increase my pricing yet. A, I didn't feel like my product warranted a price increase. B, I don't think my experience or education within this industry warranted a higher price point. And the third, and C out of that, was I just didn't want to. I was still figuring things out. I was still trying to take it from a hobby to making it a business, and really trying to understand this whole game of business as a whole. So initially my stage was get the product on bodies. First and foremost, the most important thing. I didn't care if I was losing money. I didn't care if I was making money. I don't care what was happening. I was hoping that I was making money, but in the reality of things, I just wasn't early on. So from a getting a business going standpoint, cool, maybe I could have done it differently, but I can only speak on what I did and the decisions on why I did that. And I just wanted to have my product on as many people as I possibly could, because then I was trying to cast this wide net of people that could turn into a referral source of me or a repeat purchase standpoint. Fast forward to today, when it comes to increasing pricing, at the end of the day, I believe we're the best at what we do, 1,000%. I think the quality of our product is amazing. I think the experience that we provide is amazing. Now, we're still always trying to improve all those things and make them better. But I think we're at a point where, we're at hey, do we increase our entry level price point? We've incurred a lot of costs over the last year with the tariffs. Last year we had increased pricing again. Not saying we're doing it, we're not going to do it this year. As of now, I don't anticipate us making any price changes. I know next year we're going to revisit, or at the end of this year, we're going to take a good look at where we are and the experience that we have. But I think another caveat of it to what you said is, not every client is really meant to be with you either. And I think the sooner you are okay with losing clients because you're outpricing them, and you could be outpricing them from they're just not the right client at a higher end. You could be outpricing them from they're not the right fit for you anymore, so I want to drive them away from purchasing from me standpoint. All those things come into play, but at the end of the day, I can't worry about what a client is going to react to on a price change. I have to focus on what's the best for the survival and the growth of our business. And I think that is the best way to look at it, because it doesn't give you a chance to worry about what's the perception of this going to be, or what's a client going to think about this. If this entry level was $1,100 and now it's $1,200, $1,300, whatever, I mean, that's a substantial increase in the scheme of percentages. But if that's what I have to do to survive, and that's what I have to do to grow, then fantastic. And the other end of it, we're now making more money potentially, or we're offsetting costs potentially, depending on the scenario. But we are doing what we have to do for the best interest of the business. If we focus on doing what's in the best interest of the business, the way we've groomed our company and our brand is, it's going to trickle down to the best experience a customer can have with us. And then they're getting the value that I feel that they should be getting for that price point. So it's kind of a different thought process, or a different way to spin that question.
Nice. I have that conversation with my clients a lot, outside of just raising your prices every year. If you have when you start out, you're usually in survival mode. You're going to say yes to anything that's remotely in your wheelhouse. So you end up a couple years in reevaluating, okay, what of those things makes me a lot of money more so than the other things? What of those things do I actually enjoy doing and want to make that kind of hyper-focus my business in that direction? And that's when what you're talking about, you can do those, well, this thing that we don't make as much money on, or we don't enjoy doing, and we don't really want to make our long-term business model, we're going to add an extra price increase to that to kind of de-incentivize people to go that direction, versus maybe this other product or service that is what we're trying to focus on, that's going to be a higher value. So you can sort of prioritize what you do within your business based on that prices. If you're going every week complaining about this particular service or product that you have to deal with, that should be a thing that you look at potentially raising the price more than just a general price increase, but to potentially discourage or dissuade people from going in that direction.
Well, and that's what we do from an experience standpoint, right? We sell suits for sure, and clothing, obviously, but we really do focus on selling an experience. And that's why we pay our sales reps a lot higher of a commission than a lot of our competitors, because what we require each one of our team members to do when it comes to not only sizing somebody properly and selling them a product, but what was that customer experience the client had received from our stylist or sales rep. And if our team isn't giving them that value that they're paying for, we have to either reevaluate the sales rep that we have doing it, or stylist that we have, or we have to go a completely different route, and maybe they can't be a part of this, because we're so stringent on experience is everything. And that's how you grow, especially in a high-end customer consumer focused product like we have. And that's why we live and breathe experience with us, because we know we're more expensive than other people. We're very comparable from a pricing on the custom side of things, but from a non off the rack experience to a custom experience, we are completely different. We are way more expensive, but we also add so much more value, and our product speaks for itself whenever somebody experiences it.
That's exactly what we ran into with the accounting industry. For the first few years, we were doing a lot of 1040s, we were doing businesses as well, and we wanted to provide that elevated level of experience. But when you're doing a tax return once a year for someone that you only see once a year, for maybe you talk to them on the phone for 20 minutes, there's not a lot of opportunity or ability to provide that experience, which is why at some point 3 or 4 years ago now, we decided to not do anyone that's not a business owner that we can't meet with recurring on a monthly or quarterly basis. So we ended up getting rid of over half of our clients by number of clients that was a pretty scary decision, but we wanted to go in the direction of only working with businesses and business owners where we could meet with them on a monthly basis, develop that relationship, give that higher level of service, and have the time and opportunity to do so. So it was a gamble at the time, but it paid off in the end, and now we focus solely on that.
How hard was that for you to finally execute that?
It was hard. At first, we tried the strategy of, well, it's harder to give the tax return, so let's raise that price 1 year. And that didn't really dissuade anybody from coming. And we weren't really able to give an elevated level of experience on it. So we decided the following year to just send everybody letters, give them recommendations for who they could go work with. Our hope was that it was going to be beneficial to both parties. They could go somewhere where someone specialized and focused just on individual taxes that could give them potentially a better level of service for a reasonable price. And then we could spend our time to focus on our business clients and our business owners to give them an elevated level of service.
And did you have any pushback, or was there any negativity that surfaced from that?
We were surprised. Some people were great. They were excited that because we sent out a letter explaining the situation. They were excited we were going in that our business was growing and we were going in a different direction. Other people they had no opinion. We didn't hear from them. And then some people were mad. They tried to talk us into doing their returns anyway, and they couldn't believe, they've been a customer forever. They can't believe we're doing this to them, and took it real personal, which we don't want it to be a personal thing. It's a business decision to make sure we're able to provide our customers with the best level of service we can. And those types of customers, it was nothing against them personally. It's just that service wasn't something we were going to provide anymore.
And I think too, though, that also justifies that price change. And somebody that's from an experience standpoint that's going to be unhappy with you, or somebody that's going to feel a certain way about that, those are typically clients that I don't want to work with anyway. So they kind of weed themselves out, and the price increase shows that.
And it allows you to explain it to clients in a way they'll understand. I can tell someone, I only work with businesses. I don't have 1,000 1040s to do come tax season, so you'll still be able to call and text me and talk to me about things. And then that client that just expects a tax return to be done can go just get a tax return done.
So by essentially with you guys and your price changes, and we went through the same thing, losing clients isn't always a bad thing.
Correct. You don't want to lose clients, and I don't always look at it as losing them so much as they're going to transition to a different situation that's going to better suit them. And a lot of our clients, if they're going to transition, it's their business is slowing down or they don't need the services anymore. So we able to transition them to a situation with somebody else that works better for them from a service standpoint. And it's not necessarily a loss, just something different. Yes, they're a loss to us. They're not a client of ours anymore, but the client hopefully doesn't see it as a loss.
So to that point, right client at the right time in the business life cycle, right? That's something to me that's very important. When we started our business, I was selling suits for, I think my first couple suits I sold were $300. And I was just calling anybody that was wearing suits, and anybody that was buying a suit from Macy's for $400 or $500, I was just trying to undercut them. My purpose with that was, I got to learn. So I better offer somebody a price point that's willing to give them the reason to say, hey, David, you've never made a suit before, but I'm going to give you $300 to hope you make something fair for me. So that's what my goal was, is be as inexpensive as I possibly could. And if I could make a couple dollars on top of that, fantastic. That was really the goal. And then we went to $550 a suit, then $599. And then every year it'd be like, okay, let's go to $699. And then we were at a point where we're doing, I think, $699 or $799. And then I was like nervous to make the next step to $1,000 and or $999, whatever the number was. The next change, I was just very nervous to make because I was fearful. And I remember every price change, I was also kind of fearful. Was like, hey, somebody's used to spending a certain dollar value. Now they're buying, quote, the same product for $100 more. Was very scary to do that because every client really mattered in the beginning. Every dollar really mattered. So it was the fear of saying, okay, if I make these changes, I'm now going to guarantee that I lose revenue, but hoping that I make up this revenue in the long term, or by selling it to people that are going to just support this product through the network of people I'm selling to, whatever it may be. But I was very, very terrified of increasing pricing. And now I'm kind of like, man, it's the price increases have changed the game of the business. But again, I was adamant on our experience and product had to also become better if we were going to change the price. I wasn't willing to change the price just to change the price.
It is super scary when you raise the price because you don't know. In general, if you're reasonable with your price increases, most people stay. You'll be surprised that they stay. And the people that leave hopefully will be the people you are happy that they're leaving anyway. I think more recently with the inflation being what it is, it's more in the zeitgeist that things get more expensive and inflation happens. So it's a little more socially acceptable to do small price changes every year. People are aware gas is more expensive, so it's more expensive to ship things to get it here. Wages are going up, so it's more expensive to have employees. I think it's a little more acceptable, so you don't have to necessarily message an improvement, just
These are the times changing.
Yeah, keeping
we
things
didn't.
status
So
quo.
when we started in 2014, 15, 16, 17 timeframe, I don't remember back then prices on our costs changing really much at all in that time frame. I'm fairly certain we went a good 4 to 5 years without changing price. So that was the only reason we changed price back then was because, I don't know if a suit back then cost me $200 or $250. I was selling it for $300. I just wasn't making any money off of it. You throw alterations in there and you're losing money. So my goal was the first batch of suits we sold were just to sell the suits to get them on bodies. The second batch, when we increased pricing a little bit, that was, hey, let's try to start making a little bit of money. We were still undervalued from a comparison standpoint. Like we should have been selling them more expensive. I was fortunately in a luxury of, hey, I have a full-time job elsewhere before. This is a side thing for me to figure out. So I didn't have to live off of anything at that stage. So I was cool with testing it out and learning the process of custom suits by staying low in price and then trying to gobble up a little bit of exposure and market value.
If you think about it, you're talking about when you started out, you were making at some point just enough money for you to live off of by the products you were selling. And this would apply to someone with a service-based business too. If you're a solo entrepreneur making just enough money for you to live and you're going to hire somebody, you need to make at least twice as much money so that they can live too.
Right.
And it's pretty hard to make that jump right out of the gate. And usually it's not realistic. So that's one of the reasons you need to raise your prices to where you're making more than what you can make for a normal living so that you can then hire somebody on and you have enough margin in there to be able to pay them as well. And that's a hard first jump for people and they don't necessarily think about it that way. But if you're only making enough money for you to live, how are you going to ever hire somebody and pay them too?
Right. How do you battle the whole thing with, I've been a customer for so long and the pricing, I know we talked about it, but now the pricing is more expensive. I like people, right? You like people. Like you never want anybody to be mad at you. You have these people that were your first supporters from early on, and naturally you have loyalty to people as well because you genuinely care. The dilemma of I can't keep everybody at the same price because it just is not going to be successful also translates to if I'm giving you the pricing you had early on, I'm going to start getting resentment towards you because now you're paying for something that I feel the price isn't valued there any longer. And then me as a seller of a product would honestly get frustrated with those people and could potentially sever relationships or make me want to talk to them less purely because I'm frustrated that now you're getting a price and I'm keeping you at that price versus me saying, no, everybody changes. That's the way this world goes. And I remember early on doing that with a couple people, and it really made it challenging to the point where it's like, hey, there's no more of this shit. Like it's moving forward. This is the price. And then on top of that, a big reason why I had to get out of the day-to-day is because we talked about this before, is like I just like giving shit away to people. And it's like that's never a way to grow a business. So the faster I could get out of the day-to-day, the easier it was for me to just continue building relationships and friendships with people and not have to give people free things along the way.
You were trying to elevate the products and the processes and the experience for everybody as well. And you can't do that if you're the one selling to people either.
Right.
So that's another reason you're going to raise prices so that you can reinvest it in the business so that you can provide a better product or a better service or stay relevant with things that are changing depending on what industry you're going to be in. So it is tough. And if a client doesn't understand that, they're just sort of not the right client to begin with. They were just someone at the beginning that you were providing something to, and they were paying you, and it was just a transaction. And it wasn't really much more than that, even if they see it differently. Because I think any reasonable person's going to understand, okay, things have changed. You're offering something differently. Maybe that's no longer right for me, but I'm not going to harbor any resentment towards you. I'm just going to go somewhere else, and we both wish each other the best of luck.
One thing that I've noticed too, from a consumer standpoint, is that the people that want to pay the least require the most. And they want the most attention, and they become the biggest pain in the ass, and they become the biggest problem. And this isn't for everybody, but this is the trend that I've seen. And then the person that spends $3,000-4,000 on a suit, $5,000 on a suit, tend to be you have to hit a home run. You have to do a great product, great service, and all that stuff. But oftentimes, the person that complains the most about pricing, essentially, it becomes the biggest problem about pricing as well. And I don't know where that mentality plays into that, but that's just what I've seen in our business.
I would agree, and I don't know where it comes from either. And not everybody's like that, but some people do tend to, like, they might really want a custom suit, but it's just a bit of a stretch for them financially, or maybe just mentally, to spend that money on a suit is a bit of a stretch for them. So you're trying to thread this needle of optimizing their happiness while keeping the cost at as lowest as it could possibly be. And at the beginning, if you're trying to just get money and you need money, you spend the extra time and hassle to kind of thread that needle and make sure it works. But at some point, you can't build a business that way. That's not a process-based situation. There's going to be situations where, hey, what you want isn't at this price point. And that's, I've tried to get better from the accounting standpoint of having that conversation with people where it's, hey, we can do that, but that's not in the level of service you're currently paying for. So we can give you a quote for that. We can talk about what that would look like, but it's going to be outside of what you're currently paying for. So having that conversation with the suits, hey, you came in, you're looking at entry level. These are entry level. Looks like you want this book 3, book 4 suit. That's going to be a different price point for you. Let's talk about making that decision or not. But giving the client the option, this is where you don't necessarily lose a client. You kind of give them the option where possible of, here's what we're laying out. You pick what you would like to do and what works for you. So
do you believe in, I guess this is potentially industry specific, but a runway of a heads up on, hey, there will be price changes happening? For our business, I think we just waited till the new year every year, and we would reset things or change things. With you mentioned earlier, you kind of started letting people know moving forward, this would be the new way that we operate as a accounting firm. So what's your thought on the runway of heads up of here's the changes taking place?
I think it kind of depends on the industry. If you're buying something that's not time sensitive, it's easy to go in and realize, oh, the price has changed. I can still make a decision. For what we do, we're kind of a partner in people's businesses. So I try not to surprise them without giving them enough time to find someone else to prepare their tax return, or find someone else to help file their sales tax, their mercantile tax, things that have deadlines that I don't want them to feel like I trapped them into a situation where they don't have enough time and they have to pay now. So we try to give people plenty of heads up on those types of things. If it's going to be a small, like, hey, it's the end of the year, we're going to raise our prices 1% to 3% with inflation, I don't know that that's as big of a deal. But
what about like like a service? Well, I guess essentially you are a service industry too, right? Yeah. But I'm thinking more of a tangible service, construction,
like a haircut.
Well, yeah, and more or less like a construction or remodeling or something along those lines, where, I think you could hide costs a little bit, and you could be, hey, let me give you an estimate on this type of thing, where it's like, hey, no, this is our definite cost, or this is our definite service, from a standpoint of, hey, we do these tax returns, or we do these businesses for X amount per year. Now, size of the business is probably going to play into that as well. Yeah. So maybe that is the same type of thing.
Yeah, I get your point of construction. I never know. They're like, oh,
well, we're dealing with that now with the expansion in Columbus.
People are like, well,
nightmare.
This cost is higher, that cost is higher, and it's just, is it really that much higher? It seems crazy, but I mean, we didn't talk about this with closets the other day. The shipping costs on someone's closet was greater than the material cost to get the material here.
I didn't know that.
Just recently. Yeah, we were trying to include it in a different pallet or something, but the timeline didn't work out. So this one particular closet, we're paying more to get it here than it actually costs and material, just because the way shipping is at the moment.
Wow.
With fuel prices. So there are things that seem crazy from the outside. You're like, that doesn't seem right, that maybe it is what it is. But that's where, at least in the construction industry, most of the time you get a quote up front so you can make that decision.
Well, we just went through that too, where that wasn't the case either.
Right. Yeah. You really need quotes up front, contractors. We need that information quickly. So we're not backed into a corner with our timeline that now we don't have a choice with things. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? Because you're building a house right now too. So you're dealing with that with a lot of different vendors.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like, I'm just such a transparent person, but I'm also the type of person, if I say something, I stick to that. And even if it's in the point of I'm going to lose money or I'm not going to make as much money, if I tell you it's going to cost something, it's going to cost that. Or I'm going to get pretty damn close to that. I find it very difficult for me to understand or accept the fact that somebody could be so far off. And I think that's the frustration we're having now, is like, to be off $50,000 on a couple $100,000 is a substantial amount off. That's where I really struggle with understanding how you could operate that way as a business owner, how you could think about things. And I'm sure there's more that that's not the world we live in. So maybe, and we've never done anything in that region before. We've never experienced these things. So I also try to be, this is where trusting the person that's doing the project for you plays a big role to me. And how much do you like them, and how much do you value that they're not trying to screw you over in any capacity? And I think that's where reputation really becomes important when it comes to price increase or price change. So therefore, you don't think this person's a shithead and they're just trying to squeeze money out of you or whatever. The hope is, no, they're a good person. They operate with integrity. This is probably, what they're telling me is probably factual or probably true. So I'm not going to be as frustrated with it versus, listen, we just talked about this. This is the price, and there's other shady stuff that they've done. I think that's where I would really struggle with it. That's why I've been okay with this situation. And then the other side of it too is like, we got to get going.
Right.
So
that's
like
the timeline.
I could bitch about it and be unhappy for the next couple weeks, but I have enough that I'm already unhappy about. So I don't want to add this to that equation. That's why I've just kind of been numb to it. So, to answer the question, it's like, we're figuring this out every day on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sure Nashville, we're going to have different headaches as well when it comes to the pricing, and also it's going to be 6 months down the road. So what's pricing going to look like in 6 months? What other experiences or examples is a contractor going to be able to say, hey, this is the price then, and it's now different? I don't know. It's just weird.
You are doing a good job of detaching. I called you this week just freaking out about the price.
I was just like, pay it. I don't care.
You were like, well, let me know if I need to send an email or something.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Because you also have to your happiness plays a role in this. You're, at the end of the day, a difference of $20,000, $30,000, it sucks, or $40,000, whatever the number is. But if we're going to make a substantial amount of money there, okay, cool. And it's the same thing it's a time value thing too. Even I just bought the car recently and I'm like, hey, what's the retail price? All right, cool. Buy it at that. Okay, cool. It comes in, all these things are fucking wrong with it. And I'm like, oh, this sucks. This should, whatever. Cool. I don't want to deal with it. I just want to move forward. Not everybody operates that way. And maybe I shouldn't operate that way because it would just help me a little bit better. But at the same time, I have so much going on right now. That's not going to kill us if we have to spend a little bit more money. It still sucks. It's super annoying. I want to put more money in our pocket. I just want to open the doors. And that's really the reason that I was just kind of like, it is what it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're backed into a little bit of a corner there.
Right.
So, but transparency is important, communicating it. If you're not sure or you don't think you can do something, don't say it. If you're going to say something, then ideally you follow through with it. I've got some clients I've quoted that just missed something where I thought it was an annual filing, but it's a monthly filing. So now it's a lot more work. I'm just going to lose money on that one because that's what we said the price was until next year when we revisit it.
And that's the thing too. You give yourself here's a timeline. I'm going to deal with this for now. It is what it is. And I'm optimistic. There's always a silver lining for me. So it's like, there's going to be an end to this at some point, and I'm hoping that the value on the other side of this changes or grows or makes all this headache make sense at that point. You know, even the guy building my house now, like he probably underquoted me a little bit, but now we become good friends. So a couple of things. One, the house is going to be beautiful. It's going to be unique. It's going to be different. People are going to want to go with him from a building perspective so he can make it up elsewhere. But also because I like him so much, I'm going to try to help him sell more homes based off of our brand and the attention that we get. So I'm making a conscientious effort to make sure that because I was treated so well and I know he's so good at what he does, that I spread the word of another solid entrepreneur trying to do something amazing, who also provides a great service, great experience, and great product. And that to me is all the peace of mind that I need in a situation like that.
That's the grace of working with good customers, that you can spread it around and not have a negative situation when maybe a negative situation could be warranted. And that I have a client that, and from time to time, these people pop up where they're trying to promise their original clients that their price will never go up, whether for a product or a service. To me, that's just unrealistic. There's no real situation unless you're pricing it so astronomically high at the beginning, where your cost is like a penny and you're charging $1,000. So even if prices raise 10, 20, 50 fold, you're still making plenty of money. Unless you're doing that and really screwing people over at the beginning, there's almost no situation where you price something realistically at the front end, and 10 years into the future, you can still maintain that price.
I don't know why you would even want to do that. You just put yourself in a hole and a gap. And then and the same thing, you leave yourself open for your reputation to be damaged or destroyed.
It happens in service-based businesses where it's just your time. So you think like, oh, well, it's just my time. I'll never increase the value of my time. But just because of inflation, the value of your time without raising your prices is eroding. Every year, you don't raise the prices to at least keep up with that. So in 10 years, your time's now worth half, or that might be an exaggeration, but it's worth less than it was at the beginning 10 years prior.
And well, then there's also the value of time from if I want to take an hour to sit on my ass and not do anything versus going an hour and my services are cut in half from a cost standpoint. Even though I'm making money by going and doing that service, I'd rather not. And I'd rather sit home for an hour and not make money because of the peace of mind of that recharge hour that I'm going to have, or the time I could go have lunch with Sarah, or go see Oliver or Leo, whatever, my parents or family or friends, or just go have coffee with someone that I just haven't seen in a while. I'd rather give up making money during that time frame than make a diminished value of what my money would be from the time. That's what I really started having that aha moment.
That's the argument I usually use with people that don't want to raise prices, is think about not the price to the customer, but what you're personally sacrificing by keeping that price low from a personal standpoint. Especially when you have family, that's usually the winning argument. If people are like, yeah, you're right, I really need to do that because their family is worth more to them than that time of that customer that's not worth as much anymore.
Yeah, if you could peel back and recharge your mind, especially as a business owner, you deal with so much shit on a day-to-day basis. You're constantly getting punched in the face and I need this, I need that, hey, help me with this. And then, trying to stay on top of bills and trying to stay on top of expansion and processes, procedures, employees, everything under the sun, that marketing, advertising, like there's so many decisions you're making on a day-to-day basis. That hour, 2 hours you could get for yourself is so powerful from a recharge standpoint that there's often a dollar value that there are things I wouldn't do a lot of things for money now. Like I'm not going to drive an hour to go do this and make $1,000. And even though it's like, okay, for an hour, I made $1,000. It's like, I don't care about the money that I just don't want to go do it any longer. And I'm okay with giving up currency to sometimes just say, I want my control back.
And that if you're not there yet in your business cycle, the more you invest in those better clients now, the sooner you'll get there in your business cycle, where you'll have all those good clients you do want to work with that are willing to pay the appropriate price for what you're doing or selling. The more you spend time with these customers that aren't necessarily right, whether they're bad or just not priced right, they could be fine people. That's going to slow down and elongate that timeline to you getting to a place that you really want to be with your business.
Well, I'm in a spot, people come to me, hey, well, I want to get a suit off you. All right, cool. Let me connect you with one of my team members. I'm giving up commission 20%, 23% on some of these that become, $10,000 transaction, $50,000 over the course of a year. It could be $2,000, it could be $10,000 that I'm giving up to somebody else that I could fully done that and service them, and it doesn't take that much time to do it. but I just don't want to do those things now because I have other stuff that's a more priority for the growth of the business. But also at the beginning stages, you just mentioned, if you're starting out, you're doing this, you shouldn't have the flexibility now to be in that spot. You haven't earned that. And that's the other caveat of that too, is like you have to go through this shit to understand all this as well. And the purpose of us sharing all these things is to get people to think about things differently and implement them if and when they want to. But there's also a cost to get to the point of making money and not doing anything by all the hours and the time that you put in to build what you have. And I think that's something that's important to never forget.
And that's the evolution of the business. You're not going to keep doing the same thing you did the exact same way you did for the same price you did forever. It's just not possible. So as things change, like that customer that comes to you, are they ever upset that they're not working with you specifically?
There are definitely people where that, and in the past more now, because I've gotten away from I don't do many fittings whatsoever. And there are people that have said, oh, you're big timing me now. And I've had that happen, especially as we were increasing prices, as I was passing clients. Hey, David, I only want to work with you. Hey, unfortunately, I don't do this any longer, but I can get you in front of somebody who could give you the same experience and provide the same service that I could, and you'll be very happy. And there are people that have never bought off of us again because of that, but I'm also okay. Losing a customer is also okay. And because that's not the best interest of the customer, that's a selfish act of the customer wanting to only work with me when they're going to get the same experience, same product, same everything through somebody else, which allows me to do things that I can explore within this business to make the experience for that customer better the next time that they come in. So I get to a point where it's like, cool, hey, then don't buy off of us. That's our process. And it's a very liberating feeling to be at a spot where I can say, cool, like there's other suit companies out there, you're probably just not the right fit for us. I want you to come to us because I know how happy you'll be, but I'm not mad. And I don't get mad at that client either. I don't care.
Did you ever consider, because we never did it, but did you ever consider charging an additional fee for you to do it? So that customer that comes to you, like we were talking about before, instead of just saying, no, we don't do that anymore, would you say, well, I charge an additional styling fee of whatever to try and discourage them from doing it first before you decided to just not do it at all? Because you just jumped right to, no.
I never wanted to do that. I've thought about it more as of late than in the past. So no, I mean, as of now, so if this happens moving forward, they could thank Stan for the pressure to do that. But no, I mean,
not pressure. It's just, I think that's a good example where it doesn't really make sense because you just don't have the time.
Correct.
We're doing a lot more other things other than that. And you have a process where anybody else can style it, measure it,
right,
get it together. Maybe tastefully slightly different than you, but everything else is basically the same.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's all that's always on the table, right? We're expanding, we're getting pulled in a million different directions. It's all part of it, and that may happen at some point. But for now, I've just been passing everybody. And again, this is where I'm also trying to not push a lead away and give them a bad taste at all. I want them to support our teammates, and I want to elevate other people, and that's kind of the reason we've kind of kept it there. But so when you're thinking about your business, you're growing. Business is moving forward. It's okay to outgrow your original client. It's okay to outgrow your original customer. Things like this are going to happen. It's part of the business. It's part of growth. It's part of expansion. And these are things that you just have to be okay with. I'm not going to say that it's easy because it's certainly not, especially when you care, especially when you're building something from nothing and you have people trusting in you and believing in you and also supporting you when they could be going somewhere else and they choose to support you. It's an amazing thing, but don't be upset with yourself and don't frustrate yourself. Not all customers and clients are good for you forever, and sometimes changing your price is the best thing that you could do.